Hello, hello, and welcome to the first lecture on the properties of fluids. So, in this class, we are going to see introduction to fluid and fluid mechanics. Along with this, the concept of fluid continuum. So, what is fluid mechanics? It is nothing but the study of behavior of fluids where the fluids may be at rest, and the study of fluids which are at rest is known as fluid statics. If the fluids are in motion and we do not consider the effect of forces applied by the fluids, so such study is known as fluid kinetics. And if we consider the motion of fluids along with the forces applied by the fluid, so such study of fluid mechanics is known as fluid dynamics. So while studying the fluid mechanics, what we do, we study the fundamental laws of fluid mechanics, which relates the continuity of mass, energy with the force and momentum. So for this purpose, what we need the understanding of properties and behavior of fluids at rest and in motion, and that will help to study the fluid mechanics. So now I'd like to tell some applications where we find the application of fluid mechanics, like the flow of water through the dam gates, or the flow of water through the channels, rivers, or the flow of or the supply of water to the city for the irrigation purpose. So all these comes under the fluid mechanics. And see, these are the very broad applications that I have told you, but they have very minute micro level applications, and they will help you to find out the size of equipments or design the equipments. And so all these matters when there is a lot of cost involved, and because of this subject or this topic carries very much importance. Now, before studying the fluid and fluid mechanics, we must know the states of matter. There are three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. Let us see solid. So solid, it is a closely packed structure where the molecules are closer to each other, and because of this there is a strong intermolecular force of attraction, and that generally prevents the deformation. The deformation may be elastic, plastic, and the distance between the molecules is uniform in case of solids. See, we know that every matter has molecules, and the molecules have their own velocity. Similarly, the molecules in solid also moves with certain velocity. They changes their position always, but as they are having large intermolecular force of attraction, that is cohesive force, so they looks like a solid object. So as they are having these these properties, they are difficult to compress, and very large force is required to deform or to compress it by a fraction. So if you pour the solid objects in a container, so they will not deform to acquire the shape of container, so they will look like this, and there may be gaps between the solid objects, so they do not differ. This is the main property that we need to study here. So now liquids. So liquids have randomly packed molecular structure. So the cohesive force there exists, but not that much as that of solids. They have moderate intermolecular force of attraction. They have a adhesive property as well, means they are they get adhered with the other surfaces or the gases. And again, liquids are difficult to compress, requires now if you pour the liquid into a container, so what will happen? So it will acquire the shape of container. So here this blue portion, if you pour the water into it, so whatever the level of water, that will get over here. And see, but if we keep the conical container, it will take the shape of that conical container. So they deform to get a shape of container. Now gases. So gases are having pre-molecular structure, very less intermolecular force of attraction, so and can be easily compressed as well as expanded. If the gas is poured in a container, it occupies the entire volume. They do not need a that was this much of quantity or that much of quantity. Very small quantity of gas can occupy the whole volume of a container. So this is all about the solids, liquids and gas. And before proceeding for the definition of fluid, so I have some example. You can see that there are two plates, one is moving and one is fixed. The bottom side plate for both solid and liquid is fixed and top side plate is moving. So in between these two plates we have two materials. So on the left hand side there is a steel block and on the right hand side there is a water. So when we apply the force on the moving plate, so the moving plate will apply shear force on the steel block as well as on her. Now if we take the example of solid, so we can define this force between the moving plate and the block or the water as a shear stress, or you can say this force as a tangential force. So when we apply this force, there would be a no deformation of the solid block as it resists the shear force, and the moving plate will slide over the block. Suppose it is fixed or welded with a block. If you apply a very large force, it could deform elastically or plastically, but it will not flow. So you can easily say that the deformation of solid object requires a very large force, and if you apply this force, there could be a deformation, elastic or plastic, but flow will not occur. So now talking about the fluid, so here you can say that we can see that there is a fixed plate and moving plate. On the moving plate, the shear force would be applied. So we can see the green circles as water molecules, and when you apply this shear force, what will happen? The molecules near the boundary of moving plate will get adhered with the moving plate, and that will attain a moving plate velocity. Now subsequently the molecular layers below this layer will have certain velocities, and that will go on decreasing towards the fixed plate, this molecular velocity, and towards the moving plate the molecular velocity will go on increasing. And because of this, the movement of molecules will take place in the direction of moving plate, and we can say that this as a deformation of fluid, and this deformation of fluid leads to the flow of a liquid or fluid. So we can easily say with the help of this, if the fluid is acted upon by shear force, there could be a deformation, there would be a deformation, and this deformation would be elastic, plastic, and the flow will occur. Now from this we can say that a fluid is a substance which deforms continuously or flows when subjected to a shearing force of any magnitude. So here the keyword any magnitude is very important, means it is 0 point something or greater than 0, but should not be negative force. If such kind of force would be there, there would be a deformation of fluid and the fluid will flow. Now take an example of a small element of fluid, so where the force applied is delta F, and this force will have two components, where in the diagram small n indicates a normal component and small t indicates a tangential component. The force along the normal component is delta Fn, that is normal force, and the shear stress would be a normal shear stress, and the force along the tangential component is a shear stress. And see, the formula for normal shear stress is, it's very simple, force upon area. And from this we can get a value of shear stress, and that is responsible for the flow of liquid. So final conclusion, in fact a shear stress is essential for the flow of fluid. In fact, if a shear stress is acting on a fluid, it will flow, and if a fluid is at rest, there is no shear stress acting on it, so there would be only a normal stress acting on it. And this normal stress is nothing but, if it is compressive in nature, it is nothing but a pressure. So fluid at rest will have only a normal shear stress, and if it is compressive, this could be called as pressure. And if the fluid is flowing, it will have a shear stress component, and that will lead to the flow of fluid. So very simple, fluid flow needs shear stress, fluid at rest no shear. Now see, the fluid mechanics is a subject which is included in the undergraduate course, is based on a macroscopic approach. So I like to discuss here what is microscopic approach and macroscopic approach. So microscopic approach may be called as statistical approach. So here, in case of microscopic approach, the effect of molecular movements, motions, molecular distances, or the impurities present in a molecular structure is been taken into account, and its effect on the behavior of fluid is considered. So every molecular behavior, motion, effect of voids present, impurities, molecular distance on aggregate behavior of substance is considered. See, this kind of approach is required when the research is going on, and in general day-to-day life application it is not required. Now, take an example, like suppose we are making a coffee or we are making a tea for drinking purpose. See, we take a spoon, and with the help of our approximation, we take 1 spoon, 2 spoon, or 1.5 spoon of sugar or the tea powder that we pour into it, and we do not consider that whether I should take 1 or 2. And it's when it gets submerged into it, not submerged, when it gets mixed with the water, what would be the taste? So whatever the taste, but we required a good taste. So this is a very good example. Now take an example like the engine oil that we replace. So we do not consider that whether there is any effect of molecular structure while changing the oil. We use any grade of there are some specific, but we do not consider that. Also take an example of a toothpaste. See, while applying a force on a toothpaste, we take sometimes more toothpaste, sometimes less toothpaste, and what would be the effect of this toothpaste on cleaning of teeth, that we do not consider. But see, we try to use the brush properly to get the teeth clean. See, this microscopic approach is not essential, not required in our day-to-day life or in practical applications. So we do not consider the molecular movements and their effect on the overall behavior of substance. So what is macroscopic approach? Macroscopic approach is also known as continuum approach, and it is required in day-to-day life application where average properties need to be considered. See, if you mix the some other liquid, small portion of Medichlor with the water, what does we consider that the water's density will change? We do not consider that. The effect of Medichlor mixed into the water, and we consider the density of water as same. And this is a very good application that we use the Medichlor for cleaning purpose, or so that the impurities may get settled at the bottom into the water. All materials, solids or fluids are composed of molecules discretely spread and in continuous motion. See, every material has molecules, and the molecules are always in motion. In dealing with fluid flow relations, see, we are solving all the problems related with the fluid flow or fluid mechanics with a macroscopic approach. So here we do not consider the effect of molecular movements or molecular behavior, impurities present. So here we need to replace the actual molecular structure by continuous medium. That is, we consider that the matter is continuous. There are no impurities, there is no molecular movement, and this approach is called as continuum approach. So in continuum approach, the molecular distance is uniform, no voids, no impurities present. Such matter is known as continuous. So take an example of density. So while calculating the density, we do not consider this, and we can say that the density is the ratio of entire mass of a substance divided by volume of a substance. We do not consider what is the volume of voids or the vacancies present between the molecules. We neglect that one, and we consider the total mass of a substance and divided by total volume of a substance, where the limit is the delta V tends to 0. So to define this continuum approach in actual using mathematical formula, there is a number called as Knudsen number, which describes the degree of departure from continuum. So this Knudsen number is nothing but the ratio of lambda to the characteristic length capital L, where lambda is a mean free path length, and this is nothing but the distance between two molecules, and L is the length of region we have taken for the study. And using this ratio lambda upon L, we can define whether the fluid is following the continuum approach or not. If suppose the Knudsen number is in the range of 0.01 to 0.1, the flow may be called as sleep flow, means the liquid will glide over the surface. There will not be any adherence of liquid with the surface, and it will freely move over the body, like the motion of spacecraft in the vacuum or in the outer space. Transitional flow. So if the Knudsen number is between 0.1 to 10, such kind of flow is known as transitional flow, and if the Knudsen number is greater than 10, it is known as pre-molecular flow. And the best example for pre-molecular flow is the flow of gases present in the air. If Kn is less than 0.1, if Kn is less than, that is mean free path length is very less, and characteristic length is more, and it is less than 0.1, it is called as a continuum approach. So this continuum approach is required for the purpose of studying the fluid mechanics and defining the different fluid flow properties. So we'll see the very first fluid property, that is density. It is nothing but mass per unit volume, and the mathematically it can be written as small m upon V, where small m is mass, capital V is volume. So its unit is kg per meter cube. Typical values for water is 1000 kg per meter cube, for air 1.23 kg per meter cube. And see, for liquids there is no effect of change in temperature and pressure on the density, but for gases, with the change in temperature and pressure, the density will change. Now the next one is specific weight. It is denoted by gamma. So it is the ratio of weight of fluid per unit volume. It relates the density with a gravitational acceleration. So it is nothing but, the weight is nothing but m into g, mass into gravitational acceleration. And by the definition of specific weight, we can say it as a weight upon volume, where weight is mg, so it would be mg upon v. So by the definition of density, we have rho is equal to m upon v. So if you put the value of rho in place of mv, so you will get the specific weight as rho into g. This specific weight is also known as specific density. So its unit is, as it is weight per unit volume, for weight the unit is Newton, and for volume the unit is meter cube. For water its value is 9814, and for air it is 12.07. So the next one is specific gravity or relative density. It can be defined in two ways. It is the ratio of density of substance to the density of water at standard temperature and pressure. This standard temperature and atmospheric pressure is known as STP condition, or it may be defined as the ratio of specific weight of a substance to the specific weight of water at standard temperature and atmospheric pressure. So it can be written as density of substance rho s divided by density of water at 4 degrees Celsius, or it may be written as specific weight of substance divided by the specific weight of water at 4 degrees Celsius. And as this is the ratio of density, or you can say the specific weights, it is a unitless quantity. So this all for the fluid property. Thank you for patience listening.